Okay, I've got three marry fuck kills for you. I did it last interview with
Oh God.
Spaggy, and everyone seemed to enjoy it. And I thought of three that I can do for you. Are you ready to marry, fuck, and kill people?
This is really difficult because I hired a lot of those people, but sure, let's do it.
Well, you didn't hire all of these people, but we'll start with some that you may have hired. Marry, fuck, kill. Eugen, Peter, Sumrak.
Oh, oh, marry Peter because
Marry Peter.
he's oh fuck yes. Peter is the closest thing I've ever had to a brother from another mother.
Yep.
We have thrown things across the office in anger, argued, we've cried together, we've hugged. He is family to me, so definitely marry Peter. Um, it's gonna make Adam so uncomfortable, but Adam is so so skilled. He is a fucking artist. So I would definitely fuck Adam, and I'd kill Eugene because you know he's done a lot of great things,
Yep.
and he is a personal hire, and we've gone through our ups and downs. But goddamn, he has pissed me off sometimes. So definitely kill you.
Oh, there you go.
And I just want to apologize to both his cat and his lovely girlfriend.
Yep.
It's nothing personal.
Marry, fuck, kill. Renee, FT, the running man.
Oh, well, I definitely marry Renee because I mean that if you marry Renee, he's going to take care of you for the rest of your life. He will always be by your side. And FT is just such a naughty little bitch. Definitely fuck FT. And you know what, Paul? You've got it coming. I would kill Paul.
You and a lot of people, I reckon. And the
I'm
last
kidding. I mean, I
three.
love the guy.
Oh yeah, mate, I love Paul as well. Unfortunately, these interviews I'm becoming synonymous with me hanging shit on him, but he knows I love him. The last three: Mr. Moon, Jam Jar, and Mr. Blackout.
I would absolutely marry Mr. Blackout. If I was into guys, I don't know if I'm allowed to use his actual name because I don't know if he's ever told anybody. So let's just say Blackout. I would definitely marry Blackout because right up there with Peter, like we've gone through so much shit together. There was a time when the two of us didn't speak because I got so upset when I saw him bandit someone. I was so disappointed in him. We didn't talk for almost 6 months.
Wow.
He's he's an amazing guy, and I am very lucky to call him my friend. Uh, it, I would. Oh, Jesus, this is difficult because there are pros and cons on the next two, like fucking them. Uh, Forgive me. I think I almost got a little emotional over the whole blackout stuff. It's just he's a very dear friend to me. Um, so Moon Moon would do the weird stuff. You just know he would. He just
Yes.
would make you not tell anybody about it. Whereas Jam would Jam would treat me like a dirty little whore and make me like it, I think. Uh,
You put way too much thought into this, Brian.
I've known these people very, very, very well for a very long time.
Yeah.
I would fuck Jam because you know what? He needs a good lovin'. And I would kill Moon specifically because that's what you fucking get for being such a bandit, Moon. That's what you get.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Well done, mate. Well done. You finally got there. It was a hard. I think that was the hardest of the three of them, wasn't it?
It really was. It really was because like I have way outside the game have very close relationships and throughout the years with all three of the men you listed. You know, they know way more about my personal life, and I know more about theirs than most anybody I've ever dealt with around video games. So
Yep.
it was a difficult three to pick.
Okay, so now let's hit my favourite part of the interview, because this is where I actually get to sound intelligent. The viewer questions. And I'm going to start off with your down under brother. Who do you reckon that could be?
It's got to be Vig.
It is the one, the only vigilante gamer. So he says you might have already had this question. He's wondering how you're feeling after leaving the project. Personally, he said he thinks it was a good decision mainly for your personal happiness. He reckons you gave 110% to the project. You were accessible to fans, and some people took advantage of that, and by taking advantage, he means acting like shit cunts.
Ah, yes, shit cunts. Yeah. So, I mean, he's right. It needed to happen for my own
Sanity.
health. I kind of, well, I definitely not actually health. I went to the doctor afterwards. Amusingly, looking at my physical pre Daisy and post Daisy, my fucking blood pressure is not doing well. Not let's put it this way. I got put on BP medication after I left Daisy. I mean, his points are correct. On the other hand, there are times that I really wish I could, jump in and contribute to the project again.
Yep.
I don't know. I think it was my time. And I think I've done everything I can, and it's really it's the dirty work of crossing the finish line that's left. I don't know. I'm conflicted about it. I'm clearly conflicted about it. It needed to happen for my health, but I certainly am conflicted about it at times. I mean, I don't think they need me. This much is clear looking at the state of the build we're on right now. But, I mean, as a game developer, as a designer, the sheer nature of, like, fuck, I wish I could just get my hands dirty, and make commits again and help the team out, help Peter out. But I went through all the trouble to get the vast majority of them hired, so I should be comfortable knowing that they're the ones at the helm.
Yep. He also says a lot of people are surprised of how long development is taking. He asks, does Bohemia Interactive management feel the same? Was there or is there now increasing pressure from the bosses to deliver?
Well, obviously, I feel like I'm fairly confident I'm still under a non-disclosure agreement, but I can say this much. It's definitely taken its time. I don't think it's by any means an absurd amount of time. It's more time than any of us expected, myself included. And I am confident. No, that's the wrong word. Yeah, there's pressure, and there's been pressure, and what that pressure is and who it's from, it's neither my place to say nor can I say.
Yeah. I think the most pressure is probably from the community itself.
Yeah, probably. Pressure in terms of Bohemia Interactive versus pressure in terms of, I don't know, EA are two completely different animals. So, I mean, I guess that's a good thing. There's definitely pressure. And fuck it, I'll just say it. It has no business hitting 1.0 this year.
Yep.
At all. I can't speak for anybody else. That is my personal opinion.
Yep.
The progress that's being made is fucking outstanding. The team is kicking ass. It is better now than it ever has been. But realistically, there's no fucking way that it will be in the 1.0 state that I, Dean, anybody on the team wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Why that is, I don't know. I'm not there anymore. But I can say this much. I'm very confident that where it will be when it hits 1.0 is the absolute fucking best it could be at that day and date. Because there's no one that works on DayZ that I'm aware of is in the business of phoning it in at all. I've seen these people at their best and their worst, and they are going to work themselves to death, damn near, to get it as good as they can by the time it leaves early access.
Okay. The next question is from a regular Wolfgeist. It's sort of,
Yeah.
you've answered it. What do you think of the talk of DayZ launching in 2018? So you kind of answered that one already. So we'll go to his next question, which is DayZ critics love to bring up the infamous 2015 roadmap. Can you briefly talk about what happened in development to cause such a large error in the estimate?
I'm not in the business of throwing anybody under the bus, nor am I in the business of violating non-disclosure agreements. But
Yeah.
I will say this much. I never wanted to do roadmaps with time on them, ever.
Yep.
But I'm not my own boss, and I never was.
Okay. What was the most difficult time in DayZ development for you?
Well, launch was insanely difficult. We launched without an anti-cheat, and the staff was skeleton crew, to the point of I would routinely be up until 4, 5, 6 in the morning on a work night. I'd work all day, go home, and continue to work. I had to do shit like manually change the XYZ position of cheaters I would catch on random live streams to the fucking ocean to try and punish them in some way. I would put them out 30 minutes out to sea. It was insane. I'd be up all night fucking doing this. I'd be scrubbing cheat forms. Oh God, it was so stressful. And while I'm doing all this, I've still got to deal with there was folks over on I think it was the BI Studio forums, the Armaholics forums, that were trying to accuse me of stealing the stuff that was in DayZ Taviana. And it was being taken serious by Bohemia as a modding company. So I had to dig up old screenshots and old hard drives from my PCs at the time I did it, so I could give them the hard evidence. Like, look at this text, this email, this DM. This is hard fucking consent proof to get that shut down. So I was dealing with that. My relationship at the time with my living girlfriend wasn't doing too good because I was, 20 hours a day working. And I didn't speak the language, and I didn't have any friends around. It was
Pretty
and
tough.
then probably second, second to that would be right around the time of Dean's departure. It was very difficult, and not because of anything Dina did, but just my relationship with Bohemia, DayZ's relationship with Bohemia. It was rough. It was like, your parents splitting up. But we got through it. We got through it.
Yeah. What are some ideas and designs that you guys came up with behind the scenes but never left the office?
Well, obviously, a lot I can't mention because of non-disclosure and because it would be a real dick move to Peter and the team.
Yep.
But I could probably let me think of some stuff that I know will never happen.
Well, there's the infamous,
Oh.
you've mentioned it before, one that I can think of straight away off the top of my head was the infamous mocap of Dean Hall doing bodily motions.
I got to get that footage. It's there somewhere. I've got to talk to the folks that run the mocap lab. It's the data doesn't disappear. Never left the office. Okay. I'm pretty confident this isn't going to happen. It'll more than likely happen from a mod. Peter and I spent a lot of time talking about the process and effects of essentially how we wanted to take the flies and improve upon them, and the decay of bodies, as well as the skinning and cutting up of bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Wanted to do multiple states of the container, the mesh and textures for the container, so that like there's a body, and the body has some states it changes through based upon the lifetime tracked in the economy, to where it slowly rots away. Nothing Last of Us beautiful smooth transition, but as long as a player isn't drawing it on screen and it reaches a certain lifetime, they can swap the mesh out. So instead of just a straight body, it's a body that's been rotting a bit, and then the next state to that, of course, would be just the bones, and then it disappears. That kind of stuff. We did talk about that, and I don't think it ever got documented, so I don't think I'm spoiling anything for anybody. I don't think that's happening, but it was pretty cool.
What is your dream feature for DayZ?
Helicopters.
I just love the way you say that. I'm going to turn that into a soundbite. I might send it off to that guy who does all the DayZ songs, LK. See if he can't work something out for you. A Brian Hicks song. Helicopters. He asked this one, and you can feel free to pass on this one if you want. Oh, there we go.
Well, they are not. They're not saving the time state.
No. I was also interested to see the fireplace disappeared as well. I was wondering if that was going to still be there, but no, it's gone.
Yeah, I don't know how they have this server set up, so God knows.
Okay, so we were still on Wolf Guy's questions. What are some disagreements or conflicts that you have had with other DayZ developers?
Oh yeah, disagreements or conflicts. Well, Peter and I've had I'll just use the most recent. Peter and I have had an ongoing conversation, because I stay in touch, about radios and the existence of spawning with them as a player, and the existence of a remotely long distance voice and or text communication, and its impacts on the gameplay of DayZ and its pros and cons. Peter and I we're on different sides of the fence on this one, but to his credit, he's hearing me out. Aside from that, I did have a disagreement with, I don't want to name anybody. This isn't a name and shame, but one of our designers about soft skills, and his primary concern was that he was afraid that it would make players more angry when they die. Like
Yep.
that frustration would skyrocket. And it is a valid concern. I feel like death is a part of DayZ,
Yeah, it's a whole new factor. People always tell you don't worry about gear fear, but then there's soft skill fear as well. You'll lose all those soft skills. That'll make people modify their play style.
I wanted it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was the whole thing tied to when we first put handcuffs in. What's the point of even continuing if someone's handcuffed me? Like constantly trying to drive that, adding the association, the value to your character, and not just your gear.
Yep. He also asks, how did overly negative criticism affect the morale of the team? Now, you've talked a bit about it for yourself, but what was it like for the team?
Well, I mean, I can't speak for them necessarily, I can say, having been in that position where I felt like, I had to protect them from stuff like that. But it's the internet; they're going to see it. By protect them, I mean, be the person that slogs out there and has to respond to it. So they don't feel like they have to jump in and get into this big argument and have people pile drive on them. Fortunately, most of the really negative criticism, like the shit that just gains a lot of traction, not all the time, but most of the time, it was, as my grandfather would say, full of malarkey. It was just straight bullshit. Like, if you followed Daisy development, you knew like most of it was wildly inaccurate. The times that it was inaccurate, or was accurate, I should say, there hasn't been a single time where negative feedback comes through and it's something where like, no, you're wrong. If negative feedback comes through, like really negative feedback, and it's got some traction and people are agreeing with it, I'd say there's a 99% chance that the developers themselves agree. But the reality of software development and the reality of the business of game development often means that it's not that black and white,
Yeah.
I doubt you'll see any. I mean, there might be one or two times, but for the most part, you're never going to run across something where like everybody or some people are just really, really mad and they have a valid point that we disagree with them. I say we, I'm not part of the team anymore. The team disagrees with them. The only time that the really negative feedback that still gains criticism is stressful or infuriating is when it's stuff that's just categorically fucking untrue. Or
Brian, that never happens.
designed.
Brian, what are
or
you doing, mate?
or
You're going to get
or
called out on
designed
this.
to
You're
make it
lying.
maybe, or designed to make it seem like to minimize things. Example, the build, I think it was 6.1 that put out the enhanced Chernar's terrain, and there was a bunch of videos like, lol, 4 years for trees. It's not 4 fucking years for trees. This is one build that happened to come along. Just because this didn't come along until year 4 doesn't mean it took 4 years to do it. It's, oh, good
My
God.
personal favourite of late has been they added dynamically spawning mushrooms.
Yes. If you fucking understand how the importance of a function, what the output of the function is not as important as whether or not that function ingests and outputs variables that you need it to, in combined with the other systems that you need it to. Whether it spawns a giant pile of shit or a mushroom doesn't matter, but the dynamic spawning is working.
Yeah.
What we do with it now that it's working, sky's the fucking limit, but it's just,
Yeah. Okay, he also asks, in a Reddit comment, you hinted that Daisy could use some additional resources from Bohemia Interactive. Can you elaborate on that a bit for him?
I can't go into details, but I can say that there's been countless times throughout Daisy's development where the team definitely could have benefited from, rolling over some folks from the Arma team, once they're in sustainment or their latest DLC's pushed off, instead of working on something else, like lump them on to the team. But again, I'm not a studio manager, and it was never my responsibility, nor do I have any experience managing an entire studio. So I don't want to come across like, oh, I have the answer here. There's probably a lot of shit that I didn't see, much like there's a lot of stuff that the average community member doesn't see on the reality of inside Daisy development or game development. There's probably a whole myriad of shit that I haven't had to deal with or had hands-on experience with in the management of a studio. So I don't want to necessarily throw anyone under the bus. I will say that as a developer, as the lead on Daisy, it would have been one of the leads on Daisy. It would have been very helpful, but it didn't happen.
What's a challenge with development that most people don't seem to understand?
That it's unlike many things. much of game development, I'm not going to say all game development, but much of game development is not as formulaic as they think it is. It's not put X time in and you get this out every time. Like, it's a giant experiment in many ways, you know, especially when you're doing your own engine. Like, I want to do this. I'm sure we can get there, especially in areas where we know other engines have gotten there. But how long it's actually going to take us and what problems we're going to run into along the way, we don't know that when we start it. We can do risk assessment. We can analyze experience on our own and analyze the risk from postmortems from other similar attempts. But every snowflake is different, so to speak. You know?
Yep.
And often folks don't quite get that. Like, why isn't this done yet? Or why did you tell us about this and it's not done yet? Well, yeah, we thought it would be this long. It's actually this long.
Okay. What's a design choice that was implemented into DayZ that you disagree with or don't like?
Well, it would be that I don't like and I disagree with, but it's my own decision. And it just happens to be one I would really like reversed. But maybe I was just too good of a salesman for it internally. The long and the short of it is I do agree with the decision to nuke sidechat and all variants of it.
Yep.
I agree with that decision. I think it was mine. It might have been Dean's. I think it was mine, though. I agree with that. However, hindsight's 2020, and I have the experience now through both DayZ and other projects, including, experience writing mods for 5M for the GTRP community. That has a lot to do with the dispersion of players across a large world. I really wish players spawned with a radio. You could say radio and a battery, but we could easily just go in and detach the handheld radio from the power system. DayZ is entirely driven, as I said before, by player interaction. And Ternaris Plus is a massive fucking terrain. For 60 players, and the environment team did an amazing job of making it interesting almost everywhere. For 60 players across that huge terrain, with constant things pulling them in every direction, and no method of long-range communication, you will almost always suffer from way too long lulls of player interaction. And what keeps people playing DayZ? What drives the crazy moments, the stories that are shared? It is the shit that happens when players encounter other players, and we have encapsulated them in this almost soundproof chamber at times with the sheer distance of the world. And adapting the player spawns is not going to change that much. It will help a little bit, but it won't change it that much. The second they leave the coast, and the economy is designed to get them to do that. The second they leave the coast, the wall goes up again. And the radios are fucking brilliant. We would stroke of genius on the team for this, that it is both limited by distance and battery life, and it's opt-in. You can opt out of it if you don't want to deal with it, but it should be there. It should be an option from the second you spawn in. It should be turned on from the second you spawn in, I think. At the very least, it should be a server config variable that can be turned on and off, much like the map. It's another system I think we got wrong and we can do better on.
Yep.
Radios, more than anything, are so fucking key to DayZ reaching its potential. That long-range communication and the handheld transceiver and the long-distance, the base station radio and the transmitter at TC, these are all so beautifully done and have so much potential, and they're just being fucking neglected because it is more of a hassle now to utilize them than it is a positive. It's not worth the time almost. Like, I really disagree with the fact that we don't spawn radios.
Maybe they're going to change their mind, because you only need to look at the promo trailer they did for Xbox, where the bloke wakes up on the beach and one of the first things he finds is that body which has a radio on it.
Boydie. I can say that the folks that would make that decision have no fucking idea who made that trailer.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
It's a big company at this point. Bohemia is not the size that it used to be.
Yeah.
I don't even know who made that trailer. Like, I don't think they even know me or Dean.
Yeah. Okay, so Wolf Guy says he's going to stop there. He could keep going though. He just says, "Thanks, Brian. We love you." The next questions are from Void Style 7. And he says, "Yo, Brian, hope all is well. I have 2 questions." Well, he actually has 3. Why did you leave at such a weird time? It was just before 6.3 got released you left. The biggest step forward in the game since the beginning. It almost makes it seem like you didn't agree or like the direction they were going. Why else would someone highly invested leave the company at such a critical time? And this is something I know a lot of people have talked about.
Oh, I'm sure they have, but there's a lot of things in play here that I think they're not seeing. First off, it might have seemed an odd time for the community from their perspective because they didn't have the build yet. But you have to understand, I had seen 0.63. I had seen it for quite some time. I knew where it was. I knew the hurdles it had in front of it, the successes it had made. My confidence was at an all-time high. I kind of wish I had stuck around a little bit longer to get my hands a little dirtier with NScript and the migration of things from SQF over to it, because I think I could have had a lot of fun. But it was the right time for both me and the project. Internally, creative direction stopped being as needed as straight, raw, systemic design work and leading the design team. And that is Peter's job, not mine.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, I think it was the right time. Yeah, I don't think it was an odd time. I think it just looked that way from the outside. On the inside, things looked a lot different. You have to understand that the internal, the main trunk is often months and months ahead of what the users see on the branch that is Steam. So things looked a lot different, and probably still do. But for me at that point, and I was confident. And I also got to look at my health. I felt good about the project. I felt good about the team, and my health was not doing good. And I was homesick, and I, to a degree, was at my wit's end with Bohemia, as a company, the management, not the team. I was old guard, and they were thinking future, and I don't know, it felt right. And as much as I wish I had spent more time with NScript, or Fusion script or N4 script or whatever they're fucking calling it now. It was good. Plus, let me tell you, having been on the outside when the server files dropped and what we could do with it, that was the closest I have come to feeling like I did on DayZ mod in years. That was a great fucking time. That's why I had the first 100-person server up.
Yeah.
Because I was like, holy shit. This is the new scripting language. It's plugged into it's plugged into the player. It's plugged in to the user actions. It's all fucking there. I can start messing with it, and I can make changes without having to worry about affecting the entire game. I can just make my own changes, and people can come play it. That was so cool, so fucking cool.
Okay. He also asks, what do you personally think about them releasing the Xbox version at such a strange time, with 0.63 still being unstable and dry? He's got a bit of commentary that he adds.
I could have answered that the second the fucking first sentence was finished. It was a bad idea. It was an idea I begged them not to do, but DayZ's not mine; it's theirs.
Yeah.
I understand the business of it, but they didn't pay me to understand the business of it. They paid me to care about DayZ. DayZ, as in the project that we put on Steam, the project that we've communicated to the community on for so long. Forgive me, Xbox fans. I worked on that platform. I worked at that company. I love it, but really bad timing. Really bad timing. It shouldn't have hit until 0.63 was unstable at the earliest, in my opinion.
Yeah. Because I remember yourself and possibly Dean. I'm pretty sure it was more you though, saying that the focus would always be on the PC, and Xbox would come once PC was stable, beta, and obviously that's not what has occurred. So I think that's probably a lot of what he was referring to there as well. That obviously
Possibly, and
the vision has changed now.
I don't. Yeah, I wanted to get to that before you did. I don't think vision, as in the definition of what DayZ is affected by Xbox at all. Yeah, I don't think DayZ's vision, what it is a title, what the experience is, how it plays, is affected by it. And I can't say for certain, but I'm fairly confident that no resources were taken from DayZ, what we're playing right now for the console. I think they more than likely allocated resources from other areas in the company for it. Yeah. I mean, I think it was a really bad idea putting it out when they did. But I don't think that the existence of it it makes any compromises for what the gameplay for DayZ is, fortunately.
Yeah. His last question is, what do you think about the communication these days between the devs and the community?
See, it's the inverse. Like, there is, PR professionals involved in it now, and more, their hands are on it a hell of a lot more than the developers, the people that make commits to the SVN, people that actually physically change the game. It means it's a smoother communication, but I can't help but feeling like the relationship has changed, and I can't help but feeling like, as stressful as it was, not as much raw truth is being passed. I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people like it, and the format of it, and the professionalism on that is great. I'd like to see. I really would like to see Batty having more ownership of that, because and it's the whole reason why David and I both agreed that Batty was the pick for community manager, is because Batty, much like I was when brought onto the team, Batty's a true believer. Batty loves DayZ.
Yeah.
Batty plays DayZ. Batty knows DayZ. I feel like if there's going to be a voice to the community, and it's not, a developer like Peter, then it should be Batty.
I loved interviewing her. She was so nervous about it, but her passion and love and pride in what she does just shone through in that interview.
Batty is, in short, Batty's adorable. She is a very kind spirit, very humble, and absolutely loves DayZ.
And has a weird obsession with spiders that I just don't understand.
She's a unique one for sure.
Did she ever bring the spider into work?
Not while I was there, fortunately.
If she brought it in and I was there, mate, I'd be out of that fucking building in a quick, smart, and a hurry. Can't stand the bloody things.
Fortunately, there are no firearms, or I didn't have any actual firearms, when I was in the Czech Republic, or I'd have shot a fucking spider. Like, no.
Okay, the next question is from Yazin400. Has it been challenging for the programming team to get a multi-platform engine working, since thus far they've only been using varying versions of DirectX, and Sony's console has its own graphics API? Did Bohemia hire new people that knew Sony's API, or did the current people sit down and learn it?
I honestly cannot say. I made it very clear while I was there that I did not care about consoles. I don't mean to be crass, but as far as swinging my dick around in the office, I made it very clear. I don't care about the consoles, and I really don't want to be tasked with handling it.
Yep.
Or representing it. I came here to work on DayZ. It's why, like, when I talked about leaving Bohemia prior to leaving Bohemia, I came to Bohemia for one thing and one thing only: DayZ on PC.
Yeah. Well, the PC
As
Master
far
Race
as
will
like
love you all
speaking
the
for
more
the,
for it.
well, I absolutely fucking abhor using the term master race, but I appreciate it. Oh fuck, my radio's on. Hold. There's someone on the server that just heard me speak. They're a good distance away because they were staticky.
Oh God, that's hilarious. That's hilarious.
I can't speak for the engineers, but at least, and I definitely can't speak to anything Sony because I haven't worked on anything for the PS4.
Yeah.
But fortunately, the push for the unification of an Xbox as a platform across Windows and the physical Xbox hardware and other things makes working, if you're working on a title for a modern version of the Windows OS there and using, you know, industry standard libraries like DirectX and such, it's leagues easier than it used to be.
Yep.
And I think it really was just a matter of resource allocation, you know, things like memory consumption and so forth. That was any kind of issue. It wasn't necessarily a compatibility issue in any means.
Okay, Lejazos doesn't have a question. Just says the Wolf guys already mentioned some of the most interesting questions. Just tell Brian that we miss him. And one of the things I was so happy about with the questions submitted by the community was I did worry, and I guess you probably did as well, that a lot of the trolls and the haters were going to come in and just fill it with shit. There was very, very little of it. And the amount of people who left comments like that, as people will get to hear, I'm going to read them all out, I think was a great testimony to the state of the DayZ community right now, regardless of what some people would have us believe it's at.
Oh yeah, when I left BI, the outpouring of support I got was honestly overwhelming. I was bracing myself for, you know, some trolls, some negative comments, some anger, and I could count on one hand the amount of instances that occurred
Yep.
versus the 400 to 500 positive remarks I got.
Yeah. Okay, our next question is from everybody's favourite DayZ philanthropist, Spaggy. He starts off by saying, "Love you, Brian." And then he wants to know, what does Brian think about the line DayZ treads between game and simulation? What are the weights and measures to that? And if it has, how has that changed over time? And will server owners be able to change that without full-on modding? Well, I think that's kind of been answered a bit with the release of the files. People are getting to see what we can do there. But yeah, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I feel like a lot of it has already been answered in my early remarks about what DayZ is and why, you know, why I love it and that kind of stuff. There's a balance between Dean and I would constantly reference between, you know, the difference between authenticity and realism. Realism is for, you know, fucking, why can't I think of it? The BI Simulations title, and my brain is just shutting down because it's almost my bedtime. Regardless, let's say, I don't know, Microsoft Flight Simulator. Realism is something when you want to get down to the nitty gritty of like trying to understand the way something works and experience the way it actually works as close as you can without actually doing it. And authenticity is very similar to, you know, like role playing in Ultima Online or any open sandbox. Is you put on the skin of something to pretend. To get a feel like for some of the key points of what it's like, you know, it's the difference between being an actual doctor, going to med school, and watching an episode of House.
Yeah.
You know, you want to hear the right words and you know, put on the costume and play it a bit, and that's infinitely more rewarding and more relaxing than a simulator. And the escapism that comes with living in a virtual world like DayZ comes from the authenticity. You get that authentic feel. But you don't have to run, you know, 15 kilometers carrying, you know, 40 kilos on your back nonstop without catching your breath. Nobody wants to fucking do that every day for fun. But you get the feeling of trekking through the woods and climbing these mountains and doing all these things, running into this emergent gameplay, because the world exists to set up systems that you can use along your journey. You know, I think DayZ, when it works well, when it works as it should, is the perfect escapism.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. His next question sort of ties into one of the previous ones a bit, but why don't we find the dev team in-game so often? Now, I thought about this question a lot, and I think you set a pretty high benchmark, because for those of us who do watch a lot of streamers in particular, and a bit of YouTube content as well, you were always out there. You know, we were constantly seeing you jumping into streams with Mr. Blackout, with the Running Man, with FT, with Barely Infected, and so on. But we don't seem to see that as much anymore.
Well, one, because I'm a native English speaker. Two, because I literally had no life. I burned through relationships because of the way I conducted myself working on DayZ. I spent 4 years in the Czech Republic, and I saw more things going to the trade shows to represent the team than I did exploring the Czech Republic. I spent all my time either at work or in my flat with the privacy shutters down playing DayZ. It's not necessarily healthy, and it's not something people should expect from developers.
Yeah.
You know, Peter, he's got a wife now. He's got a kid. You know, Miroslav Manena, lead gameplay partner, has got multiple kids. You know, Eugen, did Eugen get married?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. If he didn't, I'm so sorry for calling him out on that. But he's an active life, a member of the community in the world he lives in Prague, and his family in Slovakia. These people, it's the Czech Republic, the Slovak Republic, small place, small country. It's just they've got lives, rich, healthy lives, and they're living them. And thank fucking God they're living them. It's probably why they're still able to carry on. Coming from that true believer, like literally, I went from playing DayZ full time after work when I lived in the States to, you know, I literally left work and caught a plane that night and started working on DayZ when I landed. It was just non-stop playing, because the game was my life. All of my friends were people that played DayZ or streamed DayZ. Everything about my life was DayZ. It's not necessarily healthy, Boydie. And
obsessive behavior
I know they
in
play
anything
it.
is not healthy.
Oh yeah, I know they play it because we're all friends on Steam, and I see them play it constantly.
Yeah.
But I also think it's very, very critical that you don't see them as much as you saw me, that they have a healthy life outside of work, that they play other games, so they can keep that passion and that drive, that fire going, and not burn out. I'm fucking amazed I didn't just totally burn out and never want to see DayZ again. I don't know how I did that, but thank God.
His last comment is he just wants to thank you for all your work on DayZ.
Oh, well, hold on. Putting a pin on this baggy thing. If he wants to thank me, then he can finally follow through and send me those digestives that he promised me, because I can't get a good biscuit in the United States.
There you go, Spaggy. He doesn't want cartons of beer like you said, the dev team. He just wants a box of digestives.
Milk chocolate digestives, please. No hobnobs. I don't want that stuff. I don't care if it's from Marks and Sparks or from McVitie's, as long as it's just a single roll would be fine. I don't need anything fancy. I don't need to know PG tips, which I can get here just fine. I don't need, well, you know, some Anzac biscuits would be nice, but just a good milk chocolate digestive.
I will hook you up with some Anzac biscuits, mate, if you like them. That's something I can get plenty of being
God, they're
here.
Amazing.
They are a good
I
biscuit.
love
They
Anzac
really
biscuits.
are. They're one of those biscuits that you kind of forget how good it is until you break open a pack of them again.
This is why I always stayed at the same hotel in Melbourne.
Yep.
As soon as I landed, it used to be the Hilton. I don't know what it is now because they sold it. But it's attached to the convention center, and the management is the same, I think, because the menu's the same and everything, all that. But their mini fridges are always stocked with James Bogue's Premium and Anzac biscuits.
The Tassies will love you for the James Bogue line.
Hey, say what you will about James Bogues. James Bogues Premium is damn good for a domestic beer. I like it. It's when I'm in Melbourne, I do enjoy going across the street to that little burger place that's kind of attached to
Yep,
the
the
Crown.
casino there, yeah.
The Crown. Yeah, yeah, and they have a microbrew often on tap that's Australian. White Rabbit, I believe was it. Yeah, White Rabbit's White Ale is a fantastic. It's one of my favorite Australian microbrews. But if I'm just gonna grab a bottle off the shelf that's domestic, James Bogues Premium, definitely.
There you go. So Smaggy, get those biscuits in the mail, mate. Okay, Vinegar Pancake. What is your favourite feature that we have yet to see implemented in-game?
Well, I don't know if it'll happen, and I don't want. I feel horrible about just putting Peter out there on being responsible for making it happen. But the whole reason why we pulled the scope from the Mosin was because natively it doesn't have the furniture to just slap it on there like the M4 does down there with the rail system. Hold on a second, I need to cough. We had, in fact, if you can see, I don't think there's one in Star Yar, but there's an industrial kind of shed deal.
The little workshops,
You
yep.
can see one of them, a little workshop. It's got that bench with the vise and everything on there.
Yep.
That whole thing was done so that we could have essentially an in-field crafting, a little workbench where you could put the items on there and combine and alter your base weapon, customize it more than just slapping an attachment on in the field. I don't know if that's still in the cards. It was when I left, but I really would love to see that because there's only so many of them out there, right? So it makes it a hotspot.
Yeah. There's a few of them around the place. I know there's one in between Cherno and below the airstrip, along the road there near the rails at that service station, I think it is.
Yep.
But I remember
There's
ages
one
ago.
just inland from Solnitsy.
Yep. I remember ages ago you made the comment when someone hit you up about it, and it was quite cryptic at the time. And that's what I deduced it to be. You said it's not going to be as simple as slapping a sight on a Mosin. And
Yep.
I
Those
thought about it
tables
and went,
there for that.
they're going to have to use a workshop. They're going to have to mod the weapon to be able to take the sight. Oh my God, that is just going to blow people's minds.
Mm-hmm. That'd be sweet if it does end up coming through. It's been in the cards for quite some time.
I think there'll be a lot of fanboys that'll be very, very happy if the Mosin can take a hunting scope or a long range scope back on it.
Oh yeah. I'm a little annoyed that it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. Next question from Vinegar is, will you still be involved with Survivor games, or is this a Bohemia-owned IP now? Well, we know it's a Bohemia-owned IP. It was quite public that they sold, but will you still have any involvement with it?
Well, originally the plan was I was actually going to move off of DayZ right around the time that I left and fully on to the Survivor games. For reasons I won't get into, I decided not to do that. I still do have access as an external consultant on the Survivor games, but they are under no contractual obligation to listen to anything I say. So I don't know. I'm excited for it. I think they better hurry the fuck up and get it out before modding hits, because it's going to be embarrassing if someone else essentially makes a mod of the Survivor games before Bohemia does.
Yeah.
But Lewis, one of the original creators of the Survivor games, QN Lou, he is, however, fully attached to it.
Yep.
So as long as they're listening to him, I don't know if they are, I hope they are, then they will keep the course. For me, Survivor games was never about solos. It was never about teams of, was it 4, whatever. Survivor games has always been 15 or 16 teams of 2. It's all about the team of 2. That is the core of the Survivor games, the team of 2. Yes, and I really hope they do it, and I fucking hope they keep it first person only.
Same. I really do. The official, make it, because I believe they're going to make it available for people to use themselves. and let them do third person, but the official Survivor game should be first person only.
100% agree.
Can you prove you are not a bandit?
How can anyone? If I can. It'll take a little time. I actually have the FLV recordings for almost every stream I did in 2012. And I can slap together a couple highlights should I need to, demonstrating my Robin Hood of Chernaris approach. And I would challenge for anyone to find examples of more banditry than hero actions, because I believe the ratio is strongly like 4-1 on the hero side.
Good for you, sir. Good for you. I much prefer playing friendly myself. Okay, render engine comes in. If you could make any game you wanted, time, money, work aside, what game would it be?
UO2, Ultima Online 2. I would go back to the well on that. Get the rights to Ultima Online and the Ultima Universe from EA, and a nice big fat fucking team. And yeah, and I would. Well, herein lies the crux. I'd really like to see that be something that becomes moddable later on, but games as a service and the infrastructure behind a service and modding often are not good bedfellows.
Yep.
But I'd still love to try it. You said anything. Ultima Online 2. Hell yes.
And he also wants to know, did Brian and Dean ever cook beans together?
I can't recall if we ever ate beans. But one of the things that kind of kept me sane the first year of DayZ development was Dean and I lived in the same apartment complex, and we would often have LANs at his place on the weekend, where he'd just play games all weekend.
Yep.
Usually Civilization, Space Station 13, Minecraft, oh my god, my brain is, oh my god. It's a fucking Paradox game. Oh god, and it's filled with incest. Oh my god, why can't I think of it? Oh, I'm having a brain fart. Hold on one second. CK2, Crusader Kings 2.
Yep.
But when we did that, he would often cook. But usually it was burgers. So I don't think beans, no.
Okay. Hajami comes in with a few questions. He says, I thought Brian left the building after doing its work. He was a very nice person, judging from the few interactions I had with him here on Steam. My question would be, was leaving Team Rocket, Team Brian, more a pleasant step into the future, or more towards a sad, maybe tearful split up?
Leaving Team Rocket, Team...
So I guess he's referring to when Dean left.
Oh, well, no, that wasn't sad, and it wasn't a split up. I mean, we all knew it was coming. Dean had talked to the community about it for quite some time, so we definitely knew internally. And it was kind of like, a very slow and gradual. So you just kind of get used to it. You see, a little bit less of them every week, a little bit less, a little bit less, a little bit less. And then it got to the point where it was like one day I was talking to him. He's like, should I fly back to Prague? And I was like, you know what? Things are all right. You just keep doing you. I'll let you know if anything happens. And then one day, a couple months later, he came in with Marek and they announced David Dorchak. So no, it was about as smooth as it could be. It was like every day just taking one shim away until the level was down to the level it needs to be.
Yeah.
It was pretty smooth.
Now, you pretty much covered this, but his next question was, what are your next plans? New job, new game? So we've got to watch this space. You'll release some information in the future once you are allowed to.
Yeah, yeah, definitely new game. Always new game. I don't think I've gone more than a week at most between projects
Yep.
for like the last 10 years. Um, and then on the other side, I'm enjoying going home and modding the fuck out of 5M and interacting with folks in that community because I think there's a lot of similarities. I mean, of course, it's open world. It's open world and it's emergent gameplay, so of course there's similarities. But I don't know. I might start actually streaming my escapades because there's a year and a half easily of modding and role playing in the GTA space, and I don't think anybody really realized it.
Yep. His last question is a bit of a fun one. What's your favourite foods at the moment? List around three.
Well, Svichkova, but I haven't had a good Svichkova since I left the Czech Republic.
What is that?
Svichkova is it's a Czech dish. Essentially, hold on a second. If you were to take some nice beef tenderloin, let's just fall apart beef tenderloin, and a sauce base of like pureed, I think it's like some celery, some carrots, some other kind of firm vegetables. Make that into a nice puree. You put the tenderloin sliced in there, like 3 or 4. Then you take some smetana, which is cream, and some brushinki, which is cranberries, like gelled cranberries. And you should dollop of those on top of the tenderloin, and then you get some it's bread dumpling, right? Yeah, it's bread dumpling. It's like soft bread dumpling along the side, little slice, and I don't know, you have to try it. Matt Lightfoot used to call it cat vomit because of the way it looked to him, but it's so delicious. It's so good. And then milk chocolate digestives with a good cuppa. And who doesn't love a good taco? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'll agree with that one.
Mexican food. I have come to such an appreciation of true, authentic Mexican food, having lived in Central Europe and not setting one eye on a single Mexican American or Mexican citizen the entire time I was there. And nobody in Europe knows how to make a good plate of Mexican food. And it's really nice to be near that again. Because, God, it's good.
Okay. The next questions. He also just wants to add, I wish you all good for your future, Brian. Then we have Sizo. He wants to know what Daisy mods you are looking forward to.
Well, I did see a quite fascinating. Jacob Mango was working with some folks on a quite fascinating modification utilizing trains and the train tracks. Now, I'm cautiously optimistic on it because replicating the position of a fast-moving object and it's the impacts on what's rendering into the clients on the train, as well as, God, physics interactions. But I'm really excited to see where they get with it, honestly.
Yeah, the trailer for that, the hype train they're calling it, looks amazing.
It is. They're already doing some fantastic work, and they said they got it working at least at low speed with multiple clients, and it seemed to be in synchronized state. So, no, I'm one, I'm impressed, and 2, I'm really proud of them. 3, I can't wait to check it out myself.
He also wants to know, will you make at some point a Daisy mod yourself?
If you asked me like a week ago, the answer would be yes. But I'm suddenly reminded how difficult it can be to be a participant of a modding community and a BI title. There's so much drama around it. I don't know if my blood pressure's ready for it.
Okay, feel the power. Will the graphics get enhanced at some point to look more like a 2018 game? Now, I don't know. You said it at the beginning.
Somebody needs to buy Phil a video card.
Yeah,
like,
because
holy shit,
this is a
what I
beautiful
see
game.
out here on my machine is fucking gorgeous. And considering, like, as a developer, just the sheer volume of what is rendered and the draw distances that are possible, the geometric occlusion definitely helps. But oh my god, just you can do big and mid to lo-fi, or you can do small and super hi-fi on your definition. You don't get massive and super hi-fi. You just don't fucking get it. And what we got right now, honestly, for the size of what there's not even any fucking level streaming like there is in Unreal. Like, what this engine does is amazing.
Yeah.
For this type of project. So aside from, I will say, looking in this room here, obviously we need to look at some texture updates. Yes, some of the textures, interiors, and some of the objects,
like the cupboard behind you.
Definitely. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, Daddy needs a new cupboard texture. The mesh is fine, I think. The mesh in and of itself is fine, but these textures, these textures. But I don't know. Ask the team.
Doom comes in. Will zombie AI get updated more, or are they considered just work in progress at the moment, or are they more or less done?
I don't think there's anything that's more or less done aside from Chernarus the Terrain. And that's just my personal opinion. The AI, they're good. They're getting better. No, if you were to ask me personally, I think I'm certain that some improvements are coming. It's not quite where it needs to be. They're not as much of a threat. I don't like. It's funny because a couple builds back, I didn't like how fucking $6 million man their hearing or their vision was, but now it's like maybe they're a little drunk. I don't know. There's some room for improvement.
Yeah. I think they're at a pretty decent state now, compared to sometimes where they have been, where they were, one hit killing people. Now, one on their own is not a threat at all, but you get two or more, you can be in trouble pretty quickly with this health bar as opposed to the blood bar.
True. Maybe the key here is that I see a higher concentration, because I know I've talked to the team, and the community's talked to the team about the infected count on the community servers. It's not where it needs to be. They know what it needs to be at. They'll get there eventually.
He also asked, is melee set to stay the same or have collision turned back on? That's probably not something you can really answer now that you're out of the team, is it?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd ping Peter. Peter, I can tell you right now, Peter has been very frustrated with melee for some time, and it's always been a fight to try and make it better. I would be surprised to see Peter say that the current state is exactly where he wants it to be. I'd be surprised to see Peter say anything is perfect. He's very critical of his work. So
yep.
Ask Peter.
Muffinator comes in. Compared to the mod, there's a ton more locations in standalone, and every location has many more places to explore and hide. What is the design vision of having so many extra towns and other places of interest?
Well, it might have been the wrong decision. Who knows? If you look at the just like so data from a couple years back, I talked to Razor about this. Just the lead on DayZ Mod, just to confirm that my memory wasn't bad. Would be surprised to see if DayZ Mod actually had anywhere near, like, even 10,000 potential loot spawn points. What that meant is that there's effectively a viable corridor and then a bunch of dead space. And that was heavy criticism on DayZ Mod early on, which I'm sure informed Dean's decision, as it was Dean's decision to open up everything. But once that happened, there was no putting the genie back in the bottle, and it was a matter of, all right, well, Senshi and his team led making the world a believable, livable place. I think, yes, it makes the design team's job infinitely more difficult in trying to adapt to the meta and trying to make every area actionable and valuable. But I also think it makes for a hell of a lot more believable, livable world. So, as often with early decisions in DayZ, they could be very problematic, and a more experienced designer would not have taken the risk. But fortunately, much like being, young, being 18, 19 years old and joining the military, your own morality and the reality of intelligent decisions is often quite lost upon you, and you think you're invisible, and you'll take risks and have experiences that your older version of yourself otherwise wouldn't have. So it might have been the wrong decision, who knows? But I'm really glad the decision was taken.
He also asked, do you see server counts hitting a level where it's still not that uncommon to meet other players, or is the intention to make it less common to meet people? Well, I think they've kind of answered that by releasing the files, and people are now having 100-slot servers.
Yeah, there's actually there's a ratio that was often talked about internally, and talked about on other projects as well post DayZ. Is there's the time to other player, the time to interaction. You have to, the player count needs to be high, and there needs to be tools to foster players encounter other players. So if the map is large and the player count is low, even saturating the player spawn points won't always help. You need to have methods that the game enables the encountering of other players, even across long distances. Radio. So as long as we push that, I think these are more support systems that keep the player interaction and emerging gameplay going, even in a mid to low player count.
Okay. Friendly and Tizzy, what's the thing from DayZ mod you miss the most that will not or hasn't been implemented in standalone, and why?
Really, it's vehicles. I feel like they added a completely different or an additional level of interaction and type of gameplay experience that we haven't quite gotten yet here. The vehicles, I don't think they're. I can. You know what? Fuck it. Aside from people that have started after I left, I can firmly say there's no one on the DayZ development team that has ever been happy, like, yes, confident in the state of vehicles. In some cases, I kind of almost wish Dean hadn't made the call to ditch the old Arma 2 model. I understand why Dean was always thinking about the bigger picture in the future, but fuck if it hasn't taken us a long time to even start making progress on that. I feel like, yes, there was so much wrapped around finding a vehicle and getting a vehicle and what happens with the vehicle and the sound of the vehicle alerting other players. We got a little bit of that with DayZ with the first few bumps of vehicles, but the server performance was never where it needed to be, and the physics was never where it needed to be. It's vehicles. I really miss vehicles.
I think everyone's missing them at the moment, even as buggy as they were, particularly with the stamina. Introducing the stamina when there's no vehicles to use, it's made it. It's definitely a more hardcore experience now. Only the hardcore people are really playing. The casuals get on and go, "What the fuck, stamina? No vehicles? No, fuck this. I'll go play something else."
Well, almost every title out there I can think of has stamina. That's a first-person shooter. That said, for a user, I mean, seriously, I can't think of too many that don't have like.
But not many of them have a map the size of DayZ though.
True, but you have to look at, like, often developer decisions are made with the complete project, the whole of the project in mind, and not a specific build. Now, if they had implemented this later on when vehicles were in, they would not get nearly the amount of very vocal feedback on what does and does not work versus putting it out before vehicles. Now everyone has to deal with it, and they can get a very strong feeling for what needs to be changed and how the system is operating because they know everybody's on the same page. Everyone has to deal with it. That is good for the health of the final version of the project, but might sacrifice that for everyone's sanity.
Okay. Demon Groover comes in. What is your playstyle and what community server, if any, do you play on mostly? Well, you've pretty much answered your playstyle one.
Demon fucking knows this. Demon's one of our mods. He knows. He's known me for years. He knows.
What community server do you play on mostly, though?
This one at this point. This one or the Village.
Yep, I love the Village. The Village is almost my ultimate way to play DayZ, and it really brings in what you've been saying, cough radio cough, so many times. It makes people go to use radios if they play it legitimately. I know there are people out there who do use VoIP, which you're not supposed to on that server, but to me it just adds so much to the immersion of the game.
And imagine how much more of that interaction you would get on that server and this server if people didn't have to scour the map for a tiny little fucking battery.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or a radio.
Okay, Belzelga.
Peter's going to kill me. Peter's just going to fucking kill me.
Belzelga comes in. What would you say are the most important developmental and communication towards the player base lessons you have learned over these last few years?
Manage expectation from the fucking start. Like, oh God, it can get away from you real quick. And engage, I think, especially for a smaller studio, engage your team to engage the community as often as possible. If it has to be through a curated thing like a status report, fine, but start that expectation at the beginning of the project. Because trying to shoehorn it in later on when everybody's already got their own groove is a bit of a bitch. And if at all possible, find a self-starter, competent, confident community manager to manage that for you. Because often at the end of the day, every developer, myself included, are going to be tired as fuck and their brain will be fried, and slapping together a status report is difficult. Why didn't you do it during the business day? Because we're working on the goddamn game. So get somebody that can specialize on that. Because again, especially for a smaller studio and a niche title like DayZ was supposed to be, you know, the people that want to see that stuff are already emotionally invested in the project. So if you get them quality stuff out there and you get them reliable stuff on time with a bit of honesty, it goes a long way.
Okay, Joe Dirty. Thanks for the opportunity. Detached from everything Bohemia Interactive and DayZ, would you agree with the sentiment that it is in favour of a good core experience to strip down content, be it assets, mechanics or details to gameplay, in order to not distract from the main gameplay loop, or to argue that these assets are not necessary for a good gameplay loop? Now, I'll be honest, that question confused the fuck out of me, so I hope it makes sense to you.
It does. I mean, if you're doing rapid prototyping, which technically we are, if you're more focused on, you know, if you could, to go back to the comment about dynamically spawning mushrooms, if you're more focused on strong structure of framework and functions within said framework and getting the desired results out of everything and knowing that it's there to be fleshed out, yes, I do agree that focus should be on that. But unfortunately, that often tends to be the desire of the developer, but the consumer wants to see new shit. What brings people in? Either a massive technological upgrade on the engine side or a lot of really cool fucking content. And often, you know, the exceptionally difficult thing about the years of waiting for the engine to catch up to where we wanted it to be is you can develop, you know, sure, you can have your artists going crazy on the meshes. You can have environment designers and artists going crazy on the world. But everything a designer is going to do, like in script, if you're changing your fucking script.
Hello? And I'm back.
I want to point some out. You scared the fucking shit out of me.
What happened?
Literally, this is how it went down. I'm sitting here talking, and then you suddenly say, hello, and your head turns towards the window. And then you stop responding. So I pull my gun out, I'm looking out here, and then I turn, and you're gone. And I'm like, did he just fucking murdered in real life? What the hell?
Oh, wow. The joys of doing it in game, but I really do enjoy it because, yeah, yeah, that's bizarre. Okay, so we got as far as you were talking about scripting.
Oh, okay. Well, to try and wrap that thing back up, the developers often the developers often focus on functionality, focus on script framework, on technology, and essentially put that out as a platform with the example content showing the potential of the systems. But often, again, I think I already touched on this. The content. It's all about the content. That's what brings in the users. We talked about that before.
Yeah.
The reality. Oh yeah, that's right. I'm backtracking where I was. We're up to. Oh yes. So the artists can pump out all that stuff, but what the designers spend their time doing, aside from prototyping, documentation and prototyping systems on the legacy technology, because of the nature of the beast of how game engines what they're doing is often going to have to be completely written. It's not like you just copy paste because of the change in the technology. So of course, the actionable thing to do in this odd situation we were in is to hammer that content out so the users can see it, the users can get a feel for it, and we get a feel for the overall impact on the long term of the title and how it will be once that content is on the technology that the whole title is supposed to be on at release.
Yep.
It's a catch-22. Often I prefer to do things rapid prototype in my own work, my own hobby projects. Like again, going to the 5M stuff. I will write a function and a system around that function and do essentially one full detail pass on how the entire system wraps around a mechanic in one location in the world. You can see this as an example of the whole thing, but configuring it for additional locations, additional interiors or items, I'll get around to it later. But then again, that's my own personal project and not something that 4 million people picked up on Steam.
Yeah, good point. Okay, so Toast Von Rich, do you still play DayZ? If no, do you miss it?
I mean,
But how often are you playing it? Like, obviously you're playing it right now, but how often do you play it outside?
I took a break. I took a break from my departure to about the, maybe third or fourth 0.63 iteration.
Yep.
And I'd check it out, and I'd give Peter a lot of feedback. The second 0.63 stuff honestly started hitting. I'd give Peter a lot of feedback. But I didn't start like just playing like for fun again until just recently with the release of the server files. It really sparked that feeling again. And oh my God, I can't begin to tell you how similar it felt to DayZ Mod when I first fired up that 100-person server and gave everyone radios.
Yep.
It felt like I was getting my radio would randomly start picking up other people's conversations, and I'd decide whether I was going to spy on them or butt in. I'd try and find someone because they were in distress and needed help, but something would happen and I wouldn't know, like, are you there still? Where did you go? There's just so much shit that fucking happens.
Yeah.
Just from having a radio, it felt alive. The player interaction was everywhere, but also it could be nowhere if I wanted it to be, because all I had to do was turn it off. It was, oh God, it's a good day to be somebody that plays DayZ.
Voldark 2 comes in. Were you always a dirty bandit?
Damn it, Bobby. No, but in my defense, the folks at Green Mountain, and he'll understand what I mean by this, they were quite threatening when we first arrived there. And it wasn't my decision to go back and give them bullets for their attitude. I believe the footage will show from my stream that was Blurman's decision. So That's on Blair.
Yeah. Okay. Your new husband barely infected. So we've sort of covered this, but I'll still ask it because it is from Renee, and you may have something you wish to add to it. But how did you find out about Daisy, and what did you like so much about it? You covered this in the Pit Stop Head interview quite thoroughly, but might be worth a recap.
Well, I mean, I've covered it in that interview, and I also covered it in this one
Yeah.
already, talking about what I love about Daisy and the emerging gameplay. And again, to cycle back to that, it was the PC Gamer article, and then finding it on Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
And I was hooked. It was Daisy with guns and zombies. Wait, no, I said that wrong. It was Ultima Online with guns and zombies.
Yeah.
Of course, it was Daisy with guns.
What is your most memorable Daisy experience?
Easily would be a something that might actually be up on my old YouTube channel called Pitch Black, I think it was. Myself and Soma were on the docks in Electro. The docks to the east of town, near the lighthouse. And a helicopter, an old Huey, was nighttime, was flying by. Now, Soma had NVGs. I did not. It was very fucking dark. And I believe my leg was broken. And the helicopter was coming towards us, and we were sure we were fucked. I don't want to ruin it for those that might come across the video. But long story short, through a bunch of tense action and cheering on from Bikeman and Lou, I actually did manage to shoot the helicopter down solely by its blinking taillight.
That's a pretty impressive shot.
Oh yeah. I believe I screamed to Soma about it.
Okay. Daisy mod or Daisy standalone? Why?
Daisy because the potential that this project has and the amount of effort that's gone into ensuring, and boy, when I say potential, I mean potential to be Daisy mod and everything Daisy mod ever wanted to be. The team has intentionally made sure everything is there, that the technology Daisy is built upon is built for Daisy's needs. I tried going back to the mod. It's just, it might be hard to see for those who have slogged through the trenches alongside us for all these years, but Daisy is so fucking far ahead of what the mod ever was. And if anybody says otherwise, I challenge them to look back at the 20-minute long login times that used to occur.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Beta Frog comes in with any desire to do a post-mortem at GDC when the timing is right.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to do that. Grab Peter, maybe Dean if he's into it. I mean, I know Dean's really focused on what's next for him.
Yeah.
Definitely Peter, and would be also really interesting to grab Race. It's a nickname. Yeah, myself, Peter, Race. I don't know if Race is kind of a quiet guy, but he's the gentleman that's responsible and has been responsible for the development of the central economy and the database and all the infrastructure around Daisy. That would be a fantastic thing to do. But, of course, it requires Daisy to release.
Mithrondo, if you could go back to the initial planning stages of Daisy's development, is there anything you would change with the benefit of hindsight?
Radios.
Is there anything you can share with us, such as potential game issues we might not have already wished for or even hyped up, that you were intrigued by that didn't make the cut?
I mean, aside from what I've already talked about, like the degradation of bodies.
Yep. Horses.
Oh, yeah, horses. Yeah. That would have been really fucking cool. And for all I know, it could be happening. I don't know. I just know when I left, it was like, let's be fucking realistic here.
I would love horses. I really would. They would just be amazing for the game.
Oh
Because
yeah,
I
yeah,
believe you
that would
said,
be.
wasn't the boss of Bohemia Interactive a fan of having horses in the game?
Oh yeah, oh yes, 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 yes. He most definitely was. I don't know if he still is, but it was Marek that continued the drive on horses because I was ready to nix it. It was like, no, I think we should do that. I don't know if it's in the cards, but yeah, yeah, you're right. It would be game changing to use the phrase.
Hmm. And you've touched on this a little bit, but I really did like this question from him. What was it like living in Czechia as an English speaker? Did you experience any difficulties for a US citizen living in Europe in the current political climate?
Well, I mean, until Nigel Farage and his band of fucking goons came along, people like UKIP were, considered not they weren't taken it serious. Not to associate UKIP with the entire Tory party in the UK. I'm just saying, like, yeah, things have gotten a little crazy. But for the most part, most of my stay, either Brexit wasn't a thing, or Brexit was like, oh, it's so far away that really it's just semantics. Things will probably be different. Um, and it's also really weird for me to hear the Czech Republic called Czechia. I don't know, it's weird. Um, the Czechs are some of the most accepting people to foreigners I've ever come across. Uh, they're they just really want to be left alone to live with their families, to drink their pivo, their beer, and enjoy their home.
Yep.
And unfortunately, between World War II and the Cold War, people really just didn't want to fucking leave them alone and let them do that. They are some of the nicest and most accepting people I've ever had the privilege to be around. Um, and I'm going to lump in the Slovaks to that as well, just to be clear. The country split in the early 90s, but the Slovaks are just as kind. They have a love for the beauty of their country, of going out, not only to pubs, but to just go out and explore the nature that is their country, to bike, to hike, to camp, to spend weekends in cottages out in the woods. They're a wonderful, wonderful people, and I consider myself very blessed to have been allowed to live there.
Okay, this next guy is a modder that I've just recently discovered. He actually streams on Twitch as well, Jacob Mango. And I've really been enjoying it. I don't understand anything that he's doing, but I've just really been enjoying chatting with him and finding out what they're starting to do now. He's a member of a community on Discord. If you're interested in modding, hit me up and I'll see if I can connect you with the group. I'm not sure if there's any rules as to who can join and who can't, but yeah. Side chat. You mentioned it before. He just wants to know your reaction, and I think, sent you a link to it, to Soviet Womble's little Twitch stream rant on the lack of side chat in DayZ.
I'll be honest, I didn't watch the video because I do my best to stay away from anything that is described as a rant on DayZ or my blood pressure.
Yep.
But I would encourage you to take everything I've said about radios and understand that radios are everything side chat provided,
Yep.
but in a more immersive and believable
Fashion.
method that is opt-out.
Yep.
I feel like side chat did need to die as side chat, being what it was. But I feel like it should have been a seamless swap. Side chat should have died, and radio should have come in and been on the player on spawn, hands down.
Foxy Pote, best experience in DayZ so far, and best moment of being a dev for DayZ.
My best experience in DayZ so far probably would have been when Blackout and I recorded, what was it? Was it .60 adventures, .55 adventures, .58. I think it was .58 adventures. It was essentially a Blackout Diary series, but with Blackout and me.
Yep.
It was just me and Blackout. It was so fucking cool. It was so cool. It was so fun. We ran into random players. Crazy things happened, and he avenged my death. It was really fun. It was one of my favorite times in DayZ. And favorite time as a dev.
PAX Australia.
I suppose my favorite time as a dev would have been well, it's not PAX Australia, but it is a PAX. It would be the first time I did a live stream at the Astro booth with Loyal Patriot.
Yeah.
The guy is as big as a fucking house. He is a tall, broad-shouldered man, but he was nervous and excited. He was so humble. He was so pumped to be on a stage on a floor and like doing a live stream with me. It reminds you that it's not just it's not just a job that gets you Steam reviews. It's not just a job that might help you get a free 1080. It's what you do while you're what you do while you're in that chair when you're the captain on the bridge of something like DayZ. It's not just a job. You are helping create memories and experiences for all sorts of people, things that could change their lives and be memories they remember for the rest of their life.
And not just, I'll add to that, it's not just even their own memories, but the memories they get of watching their favourite content creators. Like one that stands out for me is the Running Man meeting, what's his name? Why have I forgotten it? Meeting one of the cannibal guys on the DayZ Underground server. The video was The Way of the Meat, I think. And watching the Running Man go outside his comfort zone, and because normally he'll play a little bit KOS-y, but that's about it. You know, he usually will try to interact with people. And what turned from a hostile encounter where I thought Paul was going to end up killing him, turned into this. Paul was basically like his manslave, being forced to become a cannibal. It was amazing to watch.
I need to watch that.
Oh, I'll send you a link to it. It's one of my favourite Running Man videos. And you know, even watching another one where I think it was being streamed when Barely Infected, I mentioned it before, stopped Renee and FT from shooting you when you were down at that little village. That was hilarious.
Yes. Renee is a terrible liar, by the way. You could hear it in his voice.
Oh yeah. But no, that's one of the unique things of DayZ. It just allows for so many. I don't know whether you watch much of the guy, but my favourite content creator at the moment is Fubar Bundy. For me,
I'm familiar with Bundy.
if people ask me to recommend one content creator for DayZ, I would always say Fubar Bundy, because he shows just what you can do with this game if you're prepared to interact with people. His last video, River Boys, was on an experiment. Was on a stress test server that was only up for a few hours, and he managed to make nearly 20 minutes, I think it was, of amazing interaction content on what is traditionally just people go on the stress test to kill each other. Yet he managed to have this whole band of people running around, behaving as this clan called the River Boys. It was absolutely amazing. The guy epitomizes what DayZ is for me.
You know, a little caveat here is I recognize you didn't say that your favorite Australian content creator was Vigilante Gamer, and that Vig is entirely because you don't make enough videos.
Exactly. Yes. Vigilante is the king of his genre. Those immersive experience videos. The best video of his I can think of is that one where he's sitting at the well in Zelenogorsk, and that guy runs past in the distance in the middle of the night, and he just talks about how it made him feel, how the tension, the quickening of his heartbeat, and that, and it's totally true, because he plays such a cautious player now. He used to be very PvP, like a lot of people. Even Renee admits he used to be very PvP. But yeah, Vig, unfortunately, I can't say what he does for a living now. He wants to keep that relatively quiet. But his IRL life has overtaken his online life, which is very sad, because, God, it was an honour to play with him. An honour that he even wanted to play with an idiot like me.
Yeah, I think that was one of the first times I genuinely fanboyed meeting someone. Was when I first met him in Melbourne. And
I'll send you the
I don't think I
photos.
ever
I've
told
got
him
photos of that. I'll send them to you.
I don't think I ever told him this, but when he first started making videos and sharing them on YouTube, I was having a hell of a time falling asleep because I was constantly stressed about DayZ, and watching his videos would often calm me down and allow me to fall asleep.
Yep. He's just got such a beautiful way of delivering his content. No fancy introduction or nothing like that. Just that little zap zap sound like a bug zapper, and then you just start talking.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Who are we up to now? America 97. Are there any new projects at Bohemia that use the Infusion engine?
Well, I mean, I'm not the right person to ask, but I know that was the plan for Arma 4.
Yeah, I think everyone knows that. KDMP Rays, could you discuss the team's morale? What were some of the biggest ups and downs over development, and does the community's vitriol have effect on everyone? And he also adds, are there any Reddit posts that help boost morale for you guys?